Everyone, welcome back to the Tally Summit, which we've been running since Monday. We've had a load of awesome speakers this week who've been giving us loads of really good and valued information. And I know from your comments how much you've enjoyed it, and sometimes you've linked in and joined in with us as well, which has been really good. My name's Richard Jones, and I am the founder of the Entrepreneur's Best Kept Secret, and I am hosting this summit this week. We are on day 5, our last day, and we're on our last but one speaker. We have had 9 speakers so far. We're on to speaker 10 now, and it's been wonderful, and I do appreciate those of you who've joined us and sent in your very nice comments. It makes everything worthwhile when we know that people are getting something out of it and are enjoying it. Okay, I should have said this first, and I do this every time. I know before I ask, can you just message in to me to let me know you can hear me? Thank you. I do ramble on sometimes. Yeah, okay, we've got messages in. That's brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, we've had a brilliant week, and now we're on to day 5. So, firstly, we have a hashtag which is dedicated to the summit, which is Unleash Tally Summit. You can message us on this with comments, questions. Please use it as you have been through the week. If you're listening to this as a recording, then please use that hashtag for comments and questions, and we will get answers to those questions for you and send them back to you. Okay, we won't ignore them, we will still get the answers and we'll send them back. One more thing, please. There is a chat box down below, okay, just below there, and this is only to be used to talk to the host or the speaker. Okay, it's not to be used for anything else. Okay, so please keep to that. That is very important. Okay, right, now we go on to our speaker. I hope I'm going to pronounce the name right. I should have checked before we come on, so I hope I'm going to pronounce it right. Gina Fresquez, I don't know if I've done that right, I hope I have, who is a stressless mentor. And she's going to be talking to us about stress with entrepreneurs. So I'm not going to go into that anymore. I don't know any more about it or what she's going to talk about, but I do know she's prepared this for us. So it's the first time she's done this presentation. So I'm sure, like me, you're looking forward to it. So Gina, welcome to this afternoon and welcome to the summit.
Hi, Richard. Thank you. You can hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. So I will now hand over to you and you can take over. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here, and I'm actually really excited to get started with you and talk to you guys all about stress, and specifically about the stress that entrepreneurs and business owners are dealing with. So like Richard mentioned, I'm actually, I tailored this down a little bit more to your crowd so that we can really get into some of the hang-ups that a lot of us run into. So I'm really excited to get started on that, and have lots of tools. I'm going to go through a little bit about me, and then also run through a lot of really good tips and mindset shifts and all those things. And at the end, I'm going to share 3 kind of key, easy tips you can do to de-stress whenever you need it. So stay on till the end, because I have just like bam, 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 3 things that you can do when you're kind of overwhelmed and kind of have anxiety. So we're going to kind of work through that. And I do have a PowerPoint, so let me get started on that for you. Richard, can you see that okay?
Yeah, the slides are on.
Okay, perfect. All right. So again, I'm Gina Fresquez, and Richard said it great. And I am a stressless mentor as well as a transformational life and clarity coach. And so a lot of times people want to know, like, how does somebody become a stress expert? And everybody has different walks of life and how they get to it. I've run into neuro scientists and things like that who have studied it. Mine kind of became a theme for my life for a very long time, and so it was something that I had to overcome. And it was kind of, and I want to know if some of you can relate to this. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, and if you can relate, please type in, yes, I relate. I'm totally like that too. So from a very young age, I was basically that type A overachiever, worrywart, where I just kind of tried very hard. I always achieved, but I was always kind of working really hard to get any type of achievement. And I was a pusher and a doer, which a lot of entrepreneurs are, so you probably can relate. And so that went through high school and college, having all these achievements, and it helped me. It just probably like it helped you, that overachieveness is your drive to get things done. But what happened is once that spilled into my corporate career, when I got out of college, I maintained that. So I was that overachiever, go, giving it my all. I spent nights and weekends continuing working. And what happened was I was basically burning the candle at both ends, and I wasn't giving myself a break. And even though at the time I thought I was doing what I needed to do to get done, after only about a year or so into my corporate career, I was just totally exhausted. I was fatigued all the time. I actually had brain fog and memory loss, and I was in my 20s. I had developed acne, had some kind of stubborn belly fat around my waist. I also had some severe digestive issues that were kind of going in bouts, and I didn't know where they were coming from, as well as headaches. So I was dealing with some issues that I didn't really know where they were coming from because I was fairly healthy otherwise. And so basically I was completely burnt out is kind of what it came down to. And it wasn't until I actually found that I couldn't wake up in the morning. Like, I was just a zombie in the morning, and that's another sign that you're chronically stressed, is this you're completely drained of energy. And I hear that a lot with entrepreneurs, is you are just like, wow, I'm just go. Your on button is always on, and you're never turning it off. And so that's when I went back and finally decided to make my health a priority. I went back to holistic nutrition school, as well as hiring my own stress coach and taking some stress courses, as well as some transformational life coaching courses, to really get clear on what I needed to do to break free from all this like brain fog and the tiredness and everything that I was dealing with. And that's kind of in a nutshell where I started. Stress and worry was always very present in my life, and so that was the first step I took to learning more about myself and how to prioritize and self-care. But then as I actually started my health coaching practice about 3 years ago, I was attracting very similar clients, corporate American women, even entrepreneurs and people who are very busy and super busy, because that was me. I think I used to say things like how to be healthy in a hurry, how to be super busy and healthy at the same time. And so I attracted women who were on the go all the time and stressed out. And I quickly discovered that the women who were extremely stressed could not achieve the results that they wanted until they addressed the stress first. So if they wanted to lose weight or eat healthier or do different things, they actually had a lot of trouble getting the results that they wanted, even if they were doing everything right. And so that's actually was a pivotal point when I switched my way of coaching to addressing stress first. And then what happened was so beautiful is that as we addressed stress first, all of the other things that the person wanted fell into place. And that's kind of a theme that I'm going to move forward with in our talk today, is as you are addressing stress at the core, other things start happening for you. You achieve more freedom, you achieve more ease, things become lighter, easier, and you just things just seem a lot nicer and easier for you. So whether that is with your health or with your business, things start falling into place a lot easier. So that's kind of where that happened. And on a side note, stress as far as a common theme, as I was building my business, I was also working in a full-time 40-hour work week corporate job, and I was able to build my business successfully. But what I started noticing is as I was building my business and working full-time, I was starting to get that little stress gremlin, is what I like to call it. The little stress gremlin was creeping back up again. But because I had already dealt with that, at least I thought I had, I was a little quicker to recognize the stress gremlin creeping up in my life when I was working full-time and had a coaching business. And so at that time, I reevaluated. I actually hired a stress coach, worked with multiple people, realized what I needed to do as an entrepreneur to slow down, change, make some pretty tough decisions in my life to make some changes to really make stressing less a priority. So that's kind of where I am today as far as living a stress-less life. And I say stress less, but really that just means, you are addressing stress at the core, and it's a practice that you do, and it's never really going away. You're just learning how to work with it, and that's kind of what I want to share with you today as we move forward. So, since I'm going to talk to you specifically about entrepreneurship and the stress of running your own business, I like to start out saying a calm mind leads to a productive and prosperous life as well as business. And those of you that are entrepreneurs, they all kind of blend together, your life and your business. A lot of times we go into business ownership because we want the freedom. We want to be in charge of our own schedule and our own life, and we have these passions that we really want to fulfill. And because stress is a very wide topic, there are so many speakers on stress, and there's so many different angles we can approach this. I'm really going to streamline, the next 30 minutes or so on what we go through as entrepreneurs and some of the things that I see come up that I've dealt with as well as my clients. And so we're going to go over some of the mistakes, the struggles, and provide you with some solutions as we go forward. So I'm excited to kind of get you started on that. So I want to do a little bit of background around stress because some people just say they're stressed and they don't actually understand what's going on and what's the deal about stress. Too often I find that people don't either realize that they're stressed or they don't really see it as a problem. They actually sometimes think that it's actually a good thing. Oh, I'm so stressed, that must mean I'm busy or successful. And so I want to talk a little bit about that and how we can address that a little bit better. And in reality, stress is all around us, and it's not going away. The point of addressing stress in your life is not to just have like a stress-free life, even though you can probably hear some experts talk about that. I'm actually a fan of just learning how to deal with the stress around you. Your life goes through ups and downs, your business goes through ups and downs, and so we need to address stress in a way that is going to be comfortable with us and it moves through us and it doesn't hold us back. And that's the biggest thing that I see. So in reality, stress is actually neither good nor bad. And it's really, stress can be good. It can drive us in certain factors, but stress can also be bad in certain aspects and really affect our health. So it's really a problem when we don't approach it or handle it very well. And so basically when somebody feels stuck in an unpleasant situation or a feeling that they can't get out of, or they can't find a way out, or they can't find relief from that feeling, that's kind of when we feel stressed. And that's kind of the stress that we're going to be talking about, is these issues that I see kind of come up a lot with entrepreneurs. And so really there's two types of stress that most people, that people experience, and animals as well. And so, there's different takes on this, but how I like to explain it in the most simplest form is you have a stressful situation or you have living in stress. And we all experience both of these from time to time, or some of us more than others. But I wanted to explain the difference because one's actually pretty good for you and one's really bad for you. So a stressful situation is what we call acute stress. And this is something that would be like something quick and fast that happened, your adrenaline kicked in. My example is like you're out camping or hiking and you're being chased by a bear. Okay, so that's actually a very primal instinct of ours. If you are, in danger, if you feel stress, environmental stress, your hormones kick in, your sympathetic nervous system turns up, and you are ready to, kick it into gear to run away from that bear. And that actually is actually pretty healthy for your body. Your body's actually very well designed to manage that type of stress. And these type of stressful situations are, anything under 20 minutes is kind of that key number, 20, 30 minutes. The scientists say 20 minutes.
Gina,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. Do you know your slides are not changing?
Are they on the front?
No, it's just your first slide is still on.
Oh, goodness.
They're not
Okay.
changing.
Thank
Okay.
you. Yeah,
Okay.
I have a picture of a bear chasing a man. 1 second. Let me try to redo it. Okay, so can you see the slide page?
I can now see a different slide.
Okay.
Okay, they
So
keep moving now.
perfect. Okay, I'll just keep on going. So that
Okay.
was one of the strides. I'll just kind of move forward quickly into that. So we're here right now. So there's my picture of my bear. Thank you, Richard. Technology, right? Okay. So getting back to the acute stress or the stressful situation. So that is when your body's actually very well handled, and that's actually very helpful and healthy to have these types of situations come about. So, I mean, even though we don't want to be in harm's way, so technically, if you outran the bear within 20 minutes and you got to a safe place, and your hormones kind of came back down, your sympathetic nervous system turned off, and you regained normalness in your body. So now that we turned off that stress response and you can breathe, you're safe. That's fairly normal. That's actually a great way to use the stress response for us. Whether it's maybe you just avoided a car accident by like 2 inches. Those types of intense, very stressful situations are actually not that bad for us. What is very bad for us is what I like to call living in stress, which is the chronic stress. And that is what is the things that are keeping you up at night, the things that you're worried about, the things that aren't actual physical, environmental stressors in your life. And when it comes to not only entrepreneurs, but pretty much everybody that I know, these are the stressors that are actually going to be more harmful for you. These are the things that are weighing you down, decisions you need to be made, trouble with relationships, unhappy in something, unhappy in your job, unhappy in a situation. Maybe your boss or somebody in your life is giving you a hard time, or maybe you're just worried about paying the bills or some money issues that you're having. These are the things that are lasting obviously longer than 20 minutes. So these are the things that actually are the most concerned when we talk about stress and your health. And so if you ever hear, you probably hear it all the time, chronic stress, this is what we're talking about. Because unfortunately, that stress response, that very primal stress response in your body, does not know the difference between a stressful situation and living in stress, because your body actually reacts the same way. So even though, during the bear chase, it's maybe a little bit more intense, the same thing goes on in your body on a physical level when you are being chased by the bear or worried about paying your bills. And so because the worry about paying your bills doesn't really go away if not addressed, that's when it becomes basically toxic in your body, and because it's lasting longer than 20 minutes. And so that's when we have buildup of these hormones that are getting messed up, and that's when we run into problems with your health, with your mind, and you kind of feel like your world's crashing down because all this kind of starts to build up over time. And so you really don't get anywhere. And so that's really the stress that I'm addressing today. And what most stress experts talk about is that chronic stress, okay? So really, stress is relative. And so that's why it's kind of a fun topic to talk about, because everybody is in their own world and experiencing their own stuff, and they're creating their own personal experience of the world. And so if you were to ask somebody, are you stressed? Somebody might say yes, somebody might say no, or maybe sometimes. And it really is relative to what the person is going through and how they're handling it. And so a big question that I ask most people is, what is your perception of stress? How do you perceive stress in your life? How does it play? How is it a player in your life, or is it not at all? And then also, on a scale of 1 to 10, and this is a question I will ask everybody, and so if you ask this yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being on cloud 9, the most blissful state, and 10 being the worst, stressed out, you're just going to lose it, you're pulling your hair out, you're basically going crazy, you're so stressed out, where are you on that scale? And it's all personal. So if somebody is an 8, to them, that might be somebody a 5. I mean, really, it's all about the world that you're living in and how you are experiencing stress. So if you think that you're really stressed out and you're always living at an 8, then you need to change something. Now, if on most days you are like, oh, I'm a 3, maybe my worst day I'm a 5, but I fluctuate between a 2 and a 3, you're probably doing good. But again, it's your perception of stress. It's not my idea of telling you that you're stressed out. It's how you are receiving stress and dealing with stress on a day-to-day basis. And so that's kind of where we need to, go about it. So I would ask you, what are you stressed about first? Because we need to figure out what you are stressed about on a daily basis. Again, those chronic stressors that are seeping into your life, like I said, those stress gremlins that kind of just are always there in the background. And there could be so many different things that we are stressed about. Specifically, I've asked a lot of entrepreneurs, what are you stressed about most? And a lot of times money is a big one, and I'm going to address that slightly today. I'm not a money expert, but that is definitely one, that most entrepreneurs and business owners stress about, not having enough money or managing their money. But another really big one is not enough time or time management, feeling very overwhelmed with everything that they have to do, feeling like they might lack the structure or motivation, or maybe perfectionism and procrastination kind of creeps in, and so it kind of are those roadblocks that you have a hard time. So also making decisions is another huge one that I'm going to cover that can definitely cause stress in your life. So these are the things that you kind of just want to ask yourself first, is recognize where you're stressed, because then you can work on it. And I also have some people that say that they're not stressed. I actually had somebody recently say, oh, I'm not stressed at all. And she was running her own business and things like that. And so I actually questioned her a little bit deeper to be like, okay, well, how stress might be showing up for you in a different way. And so that's another kind of concept to think about, is even if maybe you're not like shaking, you don't have anxiety, because anxiety is not always the indicator of stress. Sometimes you are very good at hiding your stress. That was actually one of them. Maybe you just have tight shoulders. Maybe you clench your teeth at night or grind your teeth at night. There could be small, very small little things that are telling you that you're stressed, that if not addressed right now can cause even a bigger chain of events down in your life. And I just want to read this quote that one of my recent clients just wrote to me. She said, I never really thought I was stressed, but yet I was so unfocused. Through working with you, I'm learning to identify stress as blocks in my mind that are causing my actions to not be in line with what I want. Stress is the opposite of freedom. When we remove these blocks, we're no longer worried or anxious. We are free. And I loved that, and she carried that off so well, because really that can be stress too. So when the things that you're working on and your thoughts are not really in line with what you want, that can cause stress. Okay, so and like she mentioned, stress is the opposite of freedom, and I love that. So most entrepreneurs want a sense of freedom as far as why they're doing what they're doing. And so if you don't feel a sense of freedom, as far as that's a big core desired feeling for most people, then you may feel stressed on some level. And so we want to address, how can you feel more free, more at ease in your life as an entrepreneur, because that is usually one of your core desired feelings that you are striving for. And one of the things I love to talk about is animals. I'm a big animal lover, and I actually work with horses. And so I do love using the horse as an example of the stress response, because it is just pure and simple as its form. So a horse, those of you that maybe have been around a horse or seen a horse, they're a very pure example of the flight or fight response when it comes to stress. And we have that response too. We're just really bad at recognizing it as humans. We're not as deep down to that primal level. And so horses, okay, for instance, if they are scared or they have a source of stress coming their way, their first reaction is to flee, which is the flight piece. And so they want to run away from danger, which is very similar to us. So is that actually running away from the bear, or is that mentally avoiding what the stress is in your life? Again, you know, getting distracted, being procrastination, doing things that are keeping you really from getting what you want. Those are those things that you're running away from. And then the fight. So if a horse cannot fight, cannot flee, cannot run away, if it feels trapped, if it's tied down, if it's backed into a corner, it will fight back. And that is the pure and simplest form as far as that primal instinct. And we would love to say that, you know, we are really good at that, but we're not very good at it. So again, bringing this attention to, you know, what are we actually doing with our stressors? Are we fleeing from them? Are we fighting back? Or are we doing nothing? Is really the question to ask yourself. So a lot of times when we are stressed, again, getting back to that flight or fight is when you are in a container. So the whole freedom piece is if you're stressed, the way I like to think of it is like all these little bouncy balls in a jar, you know, they're just vibrating with energy and they're contained, and we want to let them out. We want to let them out and be free. And a lot of times I get whether it's a client of mine or another entrepreneur friend, is a lot of times you start wearing stress as a badge. And I see this commonly. I even did this for a really long time, where you know, you're basically telling yourself, oh, I'm stressed, oh, stressed, and you just kind of are living in that world of I'm so busy, I'm so tired, I'm stressed. But you know, you're balancing many things, and I feel like you're almost like a juggler. You're juggling like 5 million balls up in the air all at once, and usually somebody will tell you, gosh, wow, you seem so stressed, you know, something's got to give. And that's kind of the cliche thing that people say, oh, something's got to give. And really, what I see too often is it ends up being you. It ends up being us, because you have your priorities, you have your business you're trying to grow, you have your family and friends you're trying to spend time with, you have your other responsibilities in your life, and a lot of times you're like, well, I can't give up any of that. You know, I don't really know where I can have more time for me, or time to slow down is usually the questions that I get asked, or the rejections to stressing less is, you know, you don't feel like you have any time in your schedule or any room to give. And the way that I think about it is if you were to hold a stick in your hands, in two hands, and you slowly start bending it, it's going to bend. That stick's going to bend for a certain while, and then eventually it's going to crack and break. And we don't want that to be you. And so this is why I feel it's so important to address right now, because if you don't slow down and start focusing on what's going on in your life as far as the stress goes and learning how to turn it off, is what breaks is you. And if you break, then you're going to be no good to anybody. You're not going to be good to yourself. You're going to be worthless to your business, your clients, anything going on. And then you have to start all over from scratch. And that's what we really want to avoid. And that's usually when I get the call from somebody that they need help, is when they've already broken. And so I love sharing this message, because my goal is to help people focus on this before you break. And so what really needs to happen, biggest first step, is that you need a paradigm shift. You need to actually change the way that you are thinking about stress. And what I like to tell people is that what you focus on grows. Okay? So you actually want to be focusing on what you want and not what you don't want. And this has to do a lot with mindset shifts in the way you're dealing with stress. So if you find yourself saying, I'm stressed, I'm busy, I'm tired, these are the things that most commonly I hear from stressed out professionals and entrepreneurs. I want you to think about saying these words and almost completely remove them from your vocabulary, because they are not doing you any good. So by saying the word, I'm stressed, you're actually associating you yourself with the word stress. You're basically saying, I am stress. And so on a subconscious level, you are tying yourself to that word. And so it's not just that you are dealing with something stressful, you are actually binding yourself to that word stress. So again, that makes it more long-term. And same thing goes for I'm busy and I'm tired. So if you catch yourself saying these words a lot, or these phrases, whether to yourself or just out and about, or to somebody that you know, catch yourself saying these and switch it, or just decide not to say it and remove them from your vocabulary. A lot of times we're saying that we're stressed or that we're busy, and we almost wear it as like a badge of honor, like, oh, I'm so stressed, I must be, so busy, or I'm so busy, I must be getting stuff done, I must be successful in my business if I'm stressed. We really want to remove that, because that's not really doing us any good, pretty much at all in your business as well as in your life. And so you really want to flip what you're doing and remove those words, but also disassociate yourself with that word stress. So no longer saying I'm stressed. You actually want to switch that. And what I tell people to say is you can say, oh, wow, that situation was really stressful. Or, oh, I just came out of that conference, and that conference had a very stressful feeling about it. Or, you can say things are stressed, or things are, that are happening in your life are stressful, but really try to disassociate yourself with the word stress. Again, it's a subconscious level thing where you are not attaching yourself to the word stress, because you're basically saying I am living in a state of stress, instead of, oh, I'm just experiencing a stressful thing that's going on, or a situation. Again, breaking ourselves away from that chronic stress is the purpose of that there. And so we're really trying to train your brain and flip what you're focused on. So again, if you keep on saying, I'm stressed, oh, I'm so stressed all the time, you're always going to be stressed. You're always going to be living in stress. Again, what you focus on grows. So if you're always saying to people that you're stressed or busy or tired, you're always going to be stressed, busy, and tired. Okay? I might have just blown your mind. But, so you want to say, well, what do I want instead? Okay? Is the next question. So this might feel very weird at first if you're trying to train your brain, but you really want to make it a practice and start flipping what you're saying. So instead of saying I'm stressed, okay, that's not what you want, so what do you want? So you could say something like, I'm effortlessly and successfully moving through my day with ease. Okay, that would be a very nice statement to tell yourself in the beginning of the day or during a stressful situation, is having these reframes or these things to focus on that is something that you want. And like I said, it could feel very weird at the beginning. It could feel very forced, but really that's the only way you're going to achieve success. It's like anything and any goal of yours. You have to make it a practice. You have to start paying attention to it and learning your triggers so that you can switch. And that's definitely another step to take, is catching yourself in these word frames or situations and start focusing on what you want. So if you're in something that you don't like, think about what you do want and focus on that, and even say something out loud. And that really, really helps to switch the way that you are associating stress in your life and working on it, as far as moving forward, and really kind of giving up the belief system that stress is running your life. And that was kind of a huge mindset, is when you're like, I'm no longer going to let stress run my life. Stress can run through me, and I can have stressful situations, but I'm not letting it hold me back, and I'm not letting it be in charge. Okay? So moving forward from that, so that's a big piece of just recognizing your stressors and starting to put the practice into place of how you can start switching things around. And then there's some questions you can run through. So asking yourself, what is the source of stress? Again, that's going to be a question that I might ask you. Where is it coming from? And maybe it's a long list of things, but maybe it's not. How can you address the situation? Would be the next one. Okay, how can I make this situation less stressful? What are you in control of? Because a lot of times we're stressing out of things that are beyond our control, and those kind of things you just need to let go. You need to pay attention to your 50% of the situation, and how can you be how can you decrease stress? And I have some tips for you at the end as well on things you can do. And then the next thing is, do I need to make a decision? I see this way too much with entrepreneurs and business owners, is you're stressing out about the decision, and a lot of times you just need to move forward and make a decision to relieve that stress. And so that is a big one. And then, is there a third option, or what I like to say, a plan C, that you don't see? So have you exhausted all your options to move forward? And what's the worst that can happen? And that's kind of a controversial question, but I, in my own experience, have discovered that that actually helps relieve stress. If you are usually stressed about the unknown, we're usually concerned about what's going on. I don't know what's going to happen, so therefore that makes me fearful of what's going to happen. And so if you actually stop and mentally, not actually do it, but mentally go down what's the worst that can happen, and go, what would that really look like? So for most entrepreneurs, that would be, your business completely fails or flops. Okay, so think about that. So because that's such a wide, vast, scary thought, we're going to go, okay, so what happens then? So what would that look like? What would you do? What would the steps that you would take if you had to file for bankruptcy or something like that? And honestly, mentally go down that road. Don't linger on that, right? But kind of think about, what's the worst that can happen, and could I handle that? Am I going to die if that happens? And that's usually the question that we ask. And then moving forward, taking action. So I want to talk a little bit more about decision making, because I feel like that's a huge one that most entrepreneurs get stuck on, is making decisions. And they can be small decisions, they can be big decisions, and most people that are typically stressed out have a hard time making decisions, or they're indecisive because they are so stressed out about, what that decision is going to do for them, and they're fearful of what's going to happen and not really sure. And so I like to think of, for an example, jumping off a cliff. Okay, so that's the decision. The decision is, I want to get in the ocean, I want to swim in the water, and I'm on the top of the cliff. And so what you might be thinking is, okay, I either need to jump or I need to stay on the cliff. And so you might be hemming and hawing over that, and gosh, just jumping off the cliff seems kind of scary, but I don't really want to stay on the top here. This is where it's safe, but I know I really need to get down to the ocean. Okay, so that's the decision that you see right in front of you. But what I like to kind of offer an option is there an option C? Is there something else going on there, or a combination that you can do to relieve that stress? And it really depends on the person, but most people that I'm dealing with are usually living in a stressful, worrisome type of state, and so jumping off the cliff seems usually very scary to them, but they're not happy where they're at, and that's kind of that metaphor there. And so, can you address something? And a lot of times the stress is coming from an either-or situation. You're going, well, I either have to do this or I have to do this, and I can't make up my mind because I really want both, or I see both situations, or I'm not sure which is going to be best for me. Okay, and that's, again, you can maybe think about your own decisions that you're having to make lately in your business, and that's what's going on. But what I like to say is that, can you take the stairs? Okay, when it comes to jumping off the cliff, is there another way of getting what you want? And what one of my mentors say is not either or, but both plus more. Can you get both things that you want? Can you safely, go down the stairs and still get to the ocean? Is there an option C for you? And I really just challenge you to exhaust all options. And that's why sometimes it helps working with a coach. That actually helped me. I was in a very stressful situation. I had to make a choice, and I didn't even know there was an option C. And that, discovery really helped remove the stress into moving forward and taking action. And so that's another way to go about thinking about it. And so the next thing I wanted to talk about was money, and I mentioned that I know money is very stressful for everybody. Actually, not even just entrepreneurs. Most people stress out about money. So it is a very, very large topic that I'm actually not going to talk about, but I did want to give you some resources because it is such a big stressor in entrepreneurs and business owners. in most people's life, I do recommend that you pay attention to it. Okay, so if you feel that, if you told me, yes, Gina, my biggest stressor is money, then you actually need, I would highly recommend you start working on that. Start paying attention to it. It really wants to be paid attention to. And it is a very sensitive, deep topic, and it's usually where most entrepreneurs have some of their fears, have some of their biggest blocks around moving forward. And I highly, highly recommend you starting to pay attention to it if you feel that that is your biggest stressor. It might not be, but I will say that most successful entrepreneurs have had to work through their money issues at some point or another, and are probably constantly working on their money issues. And so, you know, working around fears, the stories that we've made up around money, those types of things. And then also money is very energetic. And so a lot of times you have to give to get or invest further to grow, all those things that go along with growing your business. And again, I'm not a money expert, but I do know from a personal experience, I have had to work on my money issues and how I thought about money and how it plays a role in my life, so that I could release some of that stress. And so I do have a couple of resources for you listed. These are just 3 books that I found helpful, but there's so many more. Money, A Love Story by Kate Northrup, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. Those are just good things to get started, but I highly recommend working with somebody as well if you feel that that is one of your biggest stressors. And so then besides money, which, you know, again, there's a lot of really good experts out there on money, time, okay? Every single entrepreneur and business owner I talk to, their biggest complaint is around time. And there's so many different issues around time, but a lot of it has to do with time management, scheduling, efficiency, feeling like you don't have enough time, you know, the whole too much to do, so little time is, you know, the world that we're living in, and you're constantly pulled in so many directions. You're wearing multiple hats in your business, and that is where I know that most people get the most stress kind of building up, and it slowly leads to overwhelm. And then if you're overwhelmed and you're not sleeping at night, and then again that whole chain of events of things that build up that lead to chronic stress. And so that's where I see most people deal with and the biggest issue. And for me, that's actually the easiest thing to help people with, because it's very analytical in a way, where you just need to start setting up the right systems and find that nice balance between the structure that you need to get your stuff done as an entrepreneur and having enough freedom in your life to turn off the stress response. And that's usually where I focus most of my time with clients, is finding that nice balance between the structure and the freedom, and having time work for you, not against you. This is really key to decreasing your stress, because it can really build up over time. And like I said, there's so many moving parts when it comes to building your business, and time, like I said, is the biggest complaint. So there's lots of things you can do. Obviously, there's to-do lists and organizing and prioritizing and all those things that we like to work on. And those are things that are very ideal to making sure you're on some type of schedule and working. But you also need to find some clarity around why you're doing what you're doing, what you need to be doing, and then setting up the systems that work for you. And so that could be different than your colleague that you know that's maybe doing something similar. And it depends on your own lifestyle. It depends if you have family. You know, what are you doing to setting up your work schedule so that you can get the most done in the less amount of time. It's really what it is. I like to tell people, you know, so you can get more done in less time, so you can do more of the things that you love. Because if we're always working, then we're never really relieving ourselves of that stress response. And so when it comes to creating a to-do list, a lot of people, oh my gosh, I see so many entrepreneurs, they have to-do lists all over the place, you know, sticky notes all over, and it can get really overwhelming. And to-do lists are sometimes people's worst nightmare, because when you're creating a to-do list, it could be huge. I mean, I've heard most entrepreneurs and very successful entrepreneurs say, oh my gosh, my to-do list is a mile long. Well, yeah, your to-do list is a mile long, but let's break it down even further, because what is going on your to-do list is probably my next question, because I actually have people restructure the way that they do their to-do list, I actually want you to figure out what do you want to achieve, and how do you want to feel, and then create your to-do list around those. Okay, so if somebody says that they want to build their website, or they need to work on their website, that's a really big task. and so I would ask them, well, okay, so you want to build your website, or you want to finish your website. Well, what's that really going to do for you? What's that going to, achieve in your business? Well, maybe it'll help me set up my sales funnel, or maybe it will, help me advertise more. Okay. And so if you did that, how would that make you feel? Well, maybe that would make me feel good because I'd get a client and feel more successful in my business. Okay. So again, just kind of going down a little bit further through that and making the to-do list around that. And then the other key thing that I want to share around time and stress is, don't force it. If you are not a morning person, it's probably not a good idea to try to get the most done in the morning. You want to really structure your workday around your most creativity and production time, when you're most efficient. For me personally, my mornings I like to be slow. I like to enjoy my mornings. I find that during just paying attention to my day, I crank out stuff between noon and 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the afternoon. And so those are when I know I'm going to sit down, I'm going to get stuff done, I'm going to crank it out. And so if you maybe are a morning person, maybe that's when you need to crank out your most, your to-do list and get stuff done. But if by 3 o'clock you are just dragging and you're tired, shift the way that you're focusing on the most important things that you need to get done. Make sure you plan those around when you're most efficient in your day, which will really ease the stress and the feel that you're pushing yourself so hard. And so when it comes to planning your day and these to-do lists, I always say this all the time. My clients know this. How do you eat an elephant? and there's the overwhelm factor, which is a factor of stress that most entrepreneurs have, where you're getting very overwhelmed. Your to-do list is way too long. And again, if a thing on your to-do list is to finish your website, that is way too big. Okay, you need to break that down even further to, well, what specifically do you have to do with your website? So, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Break it down as small chunks as you can, because you actually feel like you're getting more done, and you will start taking away, and you really won't have that indecisive, well, I just staring at your website saying, well, I don't even know what I need to be doing. And you also won't be kind of bouncing around. So again, relieving that stress is really about being the most efficient with your time and making that a huge priority. The other thing that I see entrepreneurs, especially women, do that can actually be causing you stress and not know is multitasking. And a lot of people think they're really good at multitasking, especially women. We tend to pride ourselves in our multitasking abilities. But I ask you, are you creating action or distraction? And I actually did a live event as well back in March and interviewed a lot of major stress experts. And Dr. Sharon Melnick shared in her studies, she saw that multitasking actually keeps you in a reactive and unproductive state. Okay? Going back and forth and working on multiple things at once, you actually lose about 30% of your efficiency in your day. Which, when I heard that, I thought that was huge. 30% of your day. Think about what you could be doing with 30% of your time if you were able to save that and get done early, or maybe take that stretch break, or maybe go for that walk, or things that you can do to really decrease your stress. 30% of your time. And so even though I know most of you do this, you might even be doing this now, you have your web browser open and you have like 10 tabs at the top, and you're on Facebook and you're on Twitter and you're doing your emails and you're getting back to a client, maybe you're even on the phone with a client while you're doing all of that. You are multitasking to its finest, and I know that entrepreneurs pride themselves in that. But in reality, we need to slow down and focus on one thing at a time and really kind of focus a little bit more. And even though it might feel weird because you feel like you're not getting as much done, you're actually going to get way more done if you kind of chunk your time out and focus on certain tasks at one time or another. These are things that I highly recommend to decrease stress, as well as just gain a lot more of time in your day so that you can enjoy it a little bit better. And so again, there's that kind of fine balance between structure and freedom. You know, you're creating structure, and it might feel forced in the beginning, but that structure is going to lead to more freedom, that more sense of ease, that more sense of having more time in your schedule for things that you really want to be doing, okay? So when it comes to multitasking, there's a struggle there. And I do know that if you do work from home is another one that some people, you know, we all love working from home, but the problem is the stress creeps in because there's no boundaries. And so if you are working from home in your office, maybe you get distracted by, you know, chores that need to be done, things that need, you know, dogs that bark at you, children that need your time. Maybe, you know, you go back and forth to the kitchen, you know, things that are, it's not black and white. There's so much gray area, and your life and your work bleed into each other. And even though that's like the entrepreneur's dream, right, to be in charge of your own life and your own schedule, you still need to set up your day to have some structure of when you're working and when you're not, and turn it off when you need to. I highly recommend that if you do work from home, that you have an office with a door, that you can close the door. So when you're done, you leave that office and you close the door, and the room's really not used for anything else. That way you can shut it off. Again, if you always work on your couch or on your kitchen dining room table, and that's where you work, then you know how that feeling of work, whether you're on your couch, on your computer or not, is always going to be creeping in, or at your dining room table. So trying to have a designated actual workspace. And if you don't have a door, you know, you can use a curtain, or, you know, some type of boundary that's put up, a physical boundary that can help you kind of shut it off. We use a curtain, and it works very, very nicely. And the other thing is kind of to break that stress cycle. It is very important that as you work within your day, to stop every 60 to 90 minutes. And this, almost every stress expert will talk about this in what you're doing. So try not to multitask, right? Assigned task, and I actually recommend using a timer. Time yourself, or set a certain amount of time limit of how long you're going to work on this task, and stop every 60 to 90 minutes and do something different. And I don't mean work on another project. I mean get up, do something that is not stressful. Turn off that stress response by doing something enjoyable. And I like to have people create what I call a stress less list, or a self-care list. And this is basically a list of 10 things that you can do pretty quickly to turn off your stress response. And that is what I think is very helpful. You can put it up in your office right behind your computer, and it can be small things. You know, it's maybe getting up and stretching. Maybe it is, you know, getting out and walking around the neighborhood. Maybe it's even just reading a chapter out of your favorite fictional novel, like something that is just really enjoyable to you. Maybe it's reading that trashy magazine on the couch for 10 minutes, like something that's from anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes that's really easy to do. And maybe it's going outside and playing with your dog for 10 minutes, like something that is going to kind of turn off that stress response and get you to relax, even if it's just for a few minutes. That is actually going to pay itself over and over again if you start implementing these little things. We tend to think that we can just work all day and then rest at the end of the day, but really it's going to be so much more beneficial if you kind of take these stops throughout. Now there's bigger things you can do, like going to the gym, going to yoga, you know, even going to get a massage would be amazing. And sometimes you do need to structure those within your work week when you feel especially the most stressed. But again, focusing on some little things that you can do, some deep breathing, meditation, things like that you can even do at your desk, that's going to stop and really turn off that stress response, is one of my biggest tips that I have for most people. So because the easy part for at least for me is structuring your life in that way where you have the system set up to give you more time, I do want to let you know about my free gift, which is my guide to nailing priorities, blasting through the to-dos, and organizing with ease. You can get that off my website, or I have a link there for you as well. And that is my free gift for you all here. And that's really just banging it out, how you need to kind of get your priorities and your to-dos done. It's, again, handling what I feel is that easier part of the stress management side of setting up your systems very easily, and putting that into practice. And so that's really the easy part moving forward. And so that's my free gift for you all. That do want it, and then there's the other aspect of finding clarity and really going deep and removing some of the blocks that are holding you back. But again, this is the easiest piece to move forward with. This is usually what you have to work on first before you can open up some space in your life to really start working on the stress management piece, whether that's again, providing more time for yourself and start paying attention to what you want, not what you don't want. And so before I get into those last three stress less tips, the take-home message really is that stress is not going away, like I mentioned. You really have to focus on it and learn how to let it move through you and change how you react to stress. Again, it's more of a mindset shift on how you experience stress in your life. And, you really want to start focusing on what you want and not what you don't want. And we really want to, break that stress cycle. And so, what is the experience that you want to be having, and focus on that. And if you can every day get up and think about that before you put your to-do list down, before you move forward in your day, that is usually what's going to lead you to thinking things a little bit differently. And I will say it's a practice, like I said before. It's hard at first. This is why usually, a lot of times you work with somebody around this, because you have to be held accountable of how you're changing the way you're thinking. There's a lot of effort that goes into really trying to have a stress-less life. You have to pay attention to what you're thinking and what you're doing, and start noticing your triggers, and then really work hard to diffuse them. And it's not as hard as you think. I know I talked about a lot of things over the last, however minutes it's been. But start paying attention to how you're reacting to stress and how you're dealing with stress and how you're talking to yourself about what's going on in your life, and moving forward in switching that, and all those the tips that I gave for you. So the three big stress breaks that I want to share with you are my three favorite, and the ones that I do the most. And these are really when you're in it, like when you are just stressed out and you need to break out of it. Maybe you're feeling some anxiety or worry, and you just need to physically turn off that stress response that you're just feeling. And these are my three favorite. And so I want to leave you with these. So the first one is a breathing technique called the 4-7-8 breathing technique by Dr. Andrew Weil. I love this one. I find this one very, very super helpful, and I teach it all the time. And to do this technique, you're actually physically, like remotely turning off the stress response. There's no physical way you can do this breathing technique and have your stress response turned on at the same time. So it's a really kind of cool trigger you can do. And basically, what you do is you breathe in very slowly for the count of 4, hold your breath for the count of 7, and then slowly blow out that breath through your mouth for the count of 8. And so what that's doing is the intake is actually kind of quick, the hold is long, and then the longest part is the exhale. And it's actually your exhale that is actually causing that stress response to turn off and your relaxation response to turn on. So that's why we focus more on the exhale. So try that one. It's a great one. You can even look it up. There's some videos that Dr. Weil has put out for that as well. The next one is engaging your senses. And this one is nice to do even if you need to do it at your desk. Also so can the breathing. But so your senses, sight, smell, sound, touch, feel. There's also taste, but I don't really focus on that one that much. But really what we're doing here is getting out of your head and into your body. So again, if you're worried about something, you're feeling the stress come on, you're anxious, you're overwhelmed, stop, which is the first thing. Recognize what's going on. Stop yourself and engage some other sense. So maybe that is smelling some essential oils. Okay, so again, smell. Maybe that is petting your cat. Okay, again, that touch, that nice soft cat. Maybe it means stepping outside and putting your bare feet in the cool grass. Okay, maybe listening to the birds chirp outside for a moment and just start paying attention to the sounds that you're hearing. Maybe it is turning on some music, some of your favorite music, and listening to the words. Getting out of your head and into your body. I usually like a combination of hearing something, smelling something, and touching something, so really getting a full body engagement. But you can also just do one or two if you're strapped for time. So really getting out of your head and into your body is a really good way to kind of turn off the stress response and start paying attention to your other senses going on around you. Okay, and then the last one is what I call the sun gaze, and this was actually taught to me by my original stress coach, Gregory Collette. And this is actually, if you live in a sunny place, I actually live in Seattle, so I don't get to do this as often as I'd like, but if you are feeling stressed, walk outside and with your eyes closed, stare at the sun for about 30 seconds. And this actually is a great way not only to feel warm, but it does turn off the stress response. And again, it's that physical, you're actually trying to physically turn off that stress response when you feel like really overwhelmed. And so step outside with your eyes closed, of course, look at the sun, bright sun, where your eyelids turn all red, and just stare at the sun with your eyes closed for about 30 seconds and breathe at the same time, and that usually turns it off as well for you. So those are my biggest tips for you. Hopefully you found all of this interesting, and I'll answer any questions that you have. Also, if you feel like that you are stressed out and you really want to find clarity on how you can adjust that, feel free to email me at gina@ginawellness.com, or my website is gina-louise.com, and I would love to help you with that as well. So that is all I have, Richard. Let me get back off of that. Yes. Yay!
Okay, lovely. Okay, thank you, Gina. That was wonderful. I've got a lot of comments here. We've had quite a lot of comments come in. One saying they never get enough sleep. Then another person saying about lacking confidence, so they get stressed because of the lack of confidence.
Okay.
Another one then. Gotta read my writing now on this. If you worry about something, you can figure out how to change it. They like the reframe idea.
Mm-hmm.
That came across. Get very tired when I'm stressed. Stressful situations keep people awake. Let's have a look. Money, time, organization, progress, making decisions. This is all at the foundation of Maslow's theory, so it totally makes sense. It is the place to start.
Good, I'm glad I'm right on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a person was working full time, they were a single parent, had another business, was going for a master's degree, and says she understands what you mean by brain fog.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've had a lot of good comments. People have obviously enjoyed this.
Yeah. It's common. It sounds like everybody's kind of experienced the same stuff. It's kind of it just gets maybe looked at a little differently. Sleep is definitely one. It's kind of like the chicken or the egg, right? Like what comes first? You're either not sleeping well, which is going to lead to more stress, or you're stressed out, so you're not sleeping well. So those need to be addressed as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So, well, thank you very much again, Gina. That was wonderful. That was great. We had a lot of, as I say, we had a lot of comments, a lot of people texting in, so that was really good, and people obviously enjoyed it, and awesome. I'm sure we get a lot out of it. We have put the link to the freebie in the chat box.
Awesome.
So we've put that in so that people can see that and get onto that as soon as they can. Okay? Great. So thank you very much. I do appreciate you giving up your time, and I'm sure everybody else does as well, because that was great.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Awesome.
Thank you. Okay, folks. Well, that's speaker number 10 of the week. And again, another awesome presentation where we learned a lot, because stress is so relevant to us all. No matter what work we do, no matter what workplace we're in, stress is relevant to us all. So thank you again to Gina for that. Just to remind you, our last speaker of the week will be at 7 o'clock this evening, British summertime, and it will be Kimberly Ross, who's going to be talking about branding. So please join me then. It'll be our final presentation for the summit. So please join us then for the last one, because it would be nice if we can all come together for the last one and enjoy that as well. Thank you very much, and I'll see you later. Thank you.